I'm Cassie at Afternoon Literature, and today I'm going to take you through my second chance shelves. So beginning on the top row, we have the first 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North. I started to read this and got around 100 pages into it and wasn't sure about the writing style, so unfortunately I DNF'd it, but the idea and story is so good that I'm thinking that I might just give this a second chance. Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. I'm interested in reading more sci-fi, and I bought this a few years back because I intended to increase my sci-fi reading, but then it just never happened, and so I want to force myself to pick up some more, especially some classics. Welcome to the Night Vale by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Cranor. This was suggested to me by one of my best friends who just thought it was hilarious when he was listening to the podcast, and so we bought the books. We all have them and none of us have read them. The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. I got this when I was at university, and the Moonstone was actually on my course, but I bought Woman in White at the same time. I haven't got round to reading it, but I do like detective stories, especially the idea of going back to the classics and seeing where they started from, so I would like to read The Woman in White. Patricia Cornwell, All That Remains. I'm not entirely certain if I love this series or not. I don't know if Dr. K. Scarpetta is really for me, and this is the third in the series, and I really don't remember book 1 or 2, so I'm not sure whether I want to continue this or not. I'm going to give it another go and then we'll see. The Fireman by Joe Hill. I got this when Joe Hill came to my local Waterstones, and it is signed, so I really was intrigued and interested in the idea of it, and I wanted to give it a read, but it is incredibly long. Horror isn't a genre that I naturally go to, and I also read a few of Joe Hill short stories at the time, and I wasn't massively fond of the writing style, so I'm hoping that because it's a novel it will be a bit different, but I'm not eager to pick this one up, and that's why it ends up on the second chance shelf. The Boy on the Bridge by M.R. Carey. So I read The Girl of All the Gifts and I really enjoyed it. I've also read Fellside by M.R. Carey, which I really enjoyed as well, so I thought I should really like this. It is again signed, and M.R. Carey's writing is incredibly cinematic, so you know I was very hopeful, but I just haven't picked it up yet, and so at some point I'm going to have to say to myself, no Cassie, you need to get to this book. And Artemis by Andy Weir. I really enjoyed The Martian more than I ever thought that I would. Wayne also really enjoyed it because we bought it, basically we had 2 copies of it, we bought it at the same time, so both of us read it and really enjoyed this. So when he was out in Forbidden Planet, Wayne found Artemis and he found it signed. And so he picked that up, he read it, he really enjoyed it, and I intended to read it almost straight away, and then heard some really bad things about it, and some really bad things about the main female character in it, and so I haven't been as inclined to get to it. Wayne still insists I'll probably like it, but I have a feeling it's going to be a free start, so I just keep picking things up instead. My Absolute Darling by Gabriel Talent. This was just an instant pick up in Waterstones. I actually don't know what really made me pick this up. I think that there's going to be quite a bit of child abuse in here, and so I really obviously have to be in a mood to get to a novel like this, and a mood that's not too dark and depressive, because I really don't want to be in that state of mind when I'm reading about something that is potentially very harrowing, so I just haven't been inclined to pick this up yet. A Spot of Bother by Mark Hidden. I read The Curious Incidents of a Dog in the Nighttime years ago and I really enjoyed it, but that was years ago, and I'm not sure whether I would enjoy this as much. I'm not sure whether A Spot of Bother is as good or worth reading, so I haven't got to it. Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. Now this was a university book. It was on my university course. I started reading it and annotating it. I must have got quite far. Maybe I've read it. But the thing is, I don't remember that I've read it. I always thought that I hadn't. So we'll see if this gets picked out of the jar. I will have a go at reading it again, and maybe I'll discover I've actually read it and it can be coming off my TBR or something. I struggle with Man Booker prize books. They tend to just be a little too literary for my enjoyment and my tastes, but we'll see. Then Everything is Illuminated. You have to figure out which way to hold this one up. Everything is Illuminated by Jonathan Safran Foer. I have no idea what this is about. I can't remember why I've picked it up, and because of that I never go back and pick it up or choose it or read it, so that's going on the second chance shelf. I've got quite a bit of Graham Greene, so for the second chance shelf I chose The End of the Affair. I really like Graham Greene. I really enjoyed reading his story The Destructors. It's one of the only short stories I really like, and I also enjoyed I can't remember what it's called, but it's about a policeman board and it's really about colonialism. I actually really enjoyed that, so I have quite a bit of Graham Greene, but I don't tend to pick it up, and so that's going on the shelf. Then Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Again, classics just aren't my go-to. They're not the thing that I generally just choose to pick up, and because of that I've decided to put a few on the second chance shelf to make me, if I can force myself to read some, I tend to find that I actually quite enjoy it, so it's usually worth my time. There's then Dead Air by Ian Banks. I really loved The Wasp Factory. I really enjoyed the writing, so I picked up another Ian Banks, and then I never got to it. This one is about the World Trade Center and it's about 9/11, I think, so yeah, again, I'm hoping that when I do pick this I'm in the correct frame of mind to read it. Another classic now is The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. I'm not sure I'm going to like this. I think that it might end up being a DNF, but I've got to give it a try. And then I think this is my final classic. There is Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. I've tried to read this once before. I found it confusing and difficult and only managed to get to chapter 2, so I clearly gave it so much of an effort. But I have friends who are just like, no, you need to read it, it's really good. So I'm going to give it another try at some point when that comes out of the jar. Okay. And now on to the second shelf, if I just reposition here. We have Outlander by Dana Gabaldon. The series had come out, everyone was talking about it, this historical romance romp type novel, so I picked up the first one and I never got to it. Romance isn't my particular genre. I could like it, but we'll see. So that needs to come up to make me read it. In the same vein, I picked up Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, because again, very occasionally I'll pick up romance, but you're talking maybe 2 or 3% of the books that I read might be romance, so yeah, not sure I'm actually going to get to that. Then there is Spontaneous by Aaron Starmer. I have no clue what this is actually about. I was at a young adult book club and some of the books were just like shared and passed out and we exchanged between us, and I happened to pick up this one. So I want to give it a try. If I don't like it, I'll DNF it and I'll donate that. Then there's Dear Martin by Nick Stoner. I was supposed to be reading this with my class in school. I did get some of the way through it, but then, you know, it didn't appeal to everyone in my class. They just really didn't get it, and therefore I've never really gone back and finished it, but I do believe that I need to read this and finish this off. Then there's Starfish by Akemi Dawn Bowman. This one I believe has some really great representation in it. It's supposed to be fantastic. someone who is of half Japanese heritage and so on, and I believe it potentially is an Own Voices novel, but I don't really know much about it. I got it because Akemi Dawn Bowman was going to be coming to the book club, and then I couldn't attend anyway, so I just never got around to actually reading it, and I don't want to just DNF it or get rid of it without actually having given it a chance. Then there is Erotic Stories for Punjabi Widows. I'm really hoping that this one will be really, really funny, that it will be quite poignant, but the last time I picked it up, it just wasn't the time to read it. I tried to start it 3 or 4 times and then never stuck with it, and so it just, yeah, I haven't got through it. So I need to give that a second chance because I'm not willing to give it away. I'm really, really reluctant to just unhaul it because I really do want to try it and like it. Then there's Lullaby by Chokpal Newick. Chokpal Newick writes some incredibly gruesome and disgusting books, but generally everything I've read by Chokpal Newick so far I really like. Lullaby is about a song that's sung to children that is traditionally known as a culling song, and so potentially maybe the reason that a lot of babies die. So yeah, I need to have a go at that one. Okay, so the next one is Hagseed by Margaret Atwood. Now, I don't like Margaret Atwood. I didn't get on with The Handmaid's Tale. It's just not a book for me. I don't really enjoy it, but I was given this book, gifted it for my birthday, and so, you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe The Handmaid's Tale just wasn't for me. Maybe there's other writing that I will like. I'm willing to give it a try, but I'm dubious, really, really dubious, really scared about this one. Okay, Digging to America by Ann Tyler. This has been on my TBR for a very, very long time, and now when I say that something's been on my TBR for a long time, I mean in excess of potentially 10 years. This is about a child that was adopted and has grown up in an American culture, but you know, that's not her heritage, and I think this is a true story, so I'm intrigued. Then there is The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell. Now what you'll realise with a lot of these books is I can't tell you much about them, and there is a reason that they have become on my second chance shelf. I cannot remember what made me pick up The Bone Clocks. I have read Us. No, wrong writer. Okay, so I've never read anything by David Mitchell, and I have no idea if I like this or not, but people were talking about it, people were saying it's good. I'll have to dedicate time to it though. Then there's I'm as Big as the Ritz and Other Stories by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I will be more than happy to read this book. I really like F. Scott Fitzgerald. I love The Great Gatsby. I love his short stories that I've enjoyed, and I always want to read more. So this will be a nice little addition. I just need to pick it up. Then there's Crash by J.G. Ballard. Now, I also read The Drowning World when I was at university, and I actually really, really enjoyed it. So, Crash, I think I will like, but, you know, I just have to be in the right mindset to pick it up. Someone has to tell me, Cassie, get that book. Then there's The Trick to Time by Kit DeWall. I was really interested in this when I bought it, but I've picked it up, I've read a little bit, I haven't, I've put it down, I've not been inclined to pick it back up again, and that just keeps happening. So I really need to dedicate some time to actually reading it. It's a very, very short read, so I'm sure I'll like it when I do get to it, but I want that to come out of the TBR jar at some point. The Bows Season by Samantha Shannon. I was really, really interested in this. I really wanted to love it and enjoy it and pick it up, and I managed to get 100 pages in, and it just felt very meh. There's constant different words for things that there doesn't need to be different words for. It's very, very confusing. I didn't know what was going on, and then there's a sudden inclusion of characters that I'm not particularly fond of, and I just don't know, but people talk so highly about it, and I'm looking forward to reading The Pride of the Orange Tree as well, so I just don't want to get rid of it yet, so I'm giving it a second chance. Then we have Seizure by Kathy Reichs. I really loved Kathy Reichs when she was writing Bones. I absolutely really, really enjoyed it, and this is her young adult series, which is about young people who gain powers in some way. It's the niece, I think, of Tempe Brennan. But I didn't love the first one. This is the second one. I've actually got the third one as well. So I'm going to force myself to carry on with the series and see if I'm wrong. Maybe it's better than I think, because I did enjoy Kathy Rex's writing. Then there is Magnus Chase and the Hammer of Four. Rick Riordan reads quite young for me. I enjoyed the first book, but there's just some jokes and just some elements to it that I think are just a bit too childish. I'm halfway through this, but I'm not inclined to pick it back up, and it's been over a month, so I'm going to put that back on the second chance shelf before I get rid of them. Then there's The Procession of the Dead by D.B. Shan, Darren Shan. This, I think, may be potentially a young adult book. Whereas his other ones are children's. I got rid of all of his children's books, not because I didn't like them, but because I'm too old for them now and I won't go back and reread them, so I did get rid of them, but I haven't got rid of these yet, so I'm going to give it a try. On to our final ones now. So, Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister by Gregory Maguire. I really like Gregory Maguire. I really loved reading Wicked, and I loved that series, so I picked up this because Cinderella is one of my favourite stories, so I was really intrigued of reading it, and then I've just never picked it up, so I need a reason to choose it. Poison Study by Maria V. Schneider. Now, unfortunately, I actually have 6 of them, so if I don't like this one book, then all 6 are going. But I did buy them in a box set, very, very cheap. I think it was £1 a book, if that. So I'm going to give them a try. I'm hoping I will like it, though, because I do love Assassins, and I do love Assassin's Schools, and so on, so on, so on. And, you know, Reagan from Peruse Project suggested this, and I usually like a lot of her suggestions, so I'm hopeful. Then there's Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. When I originally picked this up, I was intrigued to read it. I really, really wanted to. Since then, I've heard that basically if you've read Hunger Games and you've read Throne of Glass and so on, you've pretty much read this, so what's the point? So I don't know. I haven't got any of the others. If this comes out, I'll read it, I'll see, and then I can see if I can want to carry on with the series. Then there is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. Now, this sounds really, really intriguing. I loved the inclusion of the pictures and the mixed media. I thought it was going to be very atmospheric, and gothic and dark. But then it was made into a children's film that was really whimsical and odd, and I'm just not certain that this is actually what I wanted. So I haven't picked this up, I haven't gone to it. I don't know if I'll like it or not. And finally, on my second chance shelves is The Bells by Donnell Clayton. When I purchased this, I really, really wanted to read it. It was last year. It was big on BookTube, but since I haven't heard many things about it, I haven't had an inclination to go and pick it up, but I think I really could be wrong, and so I think someone needs to say to me, no, get to this book. So I've put that into the second chance jar, because I am hopeful about it. Okay. So they are all my second chance books. The idea is that I will use these as forfeits and prompts. So if I haven't quite read enough books this month, I will pull out one of these from my TBR jar for the next month, and I will force myself to read one of them. I say force, it's not that I don't want to read them. I actually really, really do. It's just that the interest and the inclination has declined over time. Some of these books have been on my TBR for 14 or 15 years, and so I keep picking up other things before them, and I need a reason to pick these up first. I need a reason to actually want to get to them and enjoy them and maybe discover some hidden gems. If you know anything about these books, if you want to tell me things that you think, you know, I definitely need to get to and maybe just include on my TBR normally, leave that down below. If you want to tell me about ones that you know are awful and I should just get rid of and take out of that our jar and not make myself suffer, please also comment with that down below. Thank you for joining me today for this video. If you liked it, please like, and if you want to see more, please subscribe, and I will see you soon.